The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. It was before the festival of the Passover, and Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to pass from this world to the Father. He would always love those who were in the world, but now he showed how perfect his love was. They were at supper, and the devil had already put into the mind of Judas Iscariot, son of Simon, to betray him. Jesus knew that the Father had put everything into his hands, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. And he got up from table, removed his outer garment, and taking a towel, wrapped it round his waist. He then poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel he was wearing. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "At the moment you do not know what I am doing, but later you will understand." "Never," said Peter. "You shall never wash my feet." Jesus replied, "If I do not wash you, you can have nothing in common with me." "Then, Lord," said Simon Peter, "not only my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus said, "No one has taken a bath needs washing. He is clean all over. You too are clean, though not all of you are." He knew who was going to betray him. That was why he said, "Though not all of you are." When he had washed their feet and put on his clothes again, he went back to the table. "Do you understand," he said, "what I have done to you? You call me Master and Lord, and rightly, so I am. If I then, the Lord and Master, have washed your feet, you should wash each other's feet. I have given you an example so that you may copy what I have done to you." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Earlier today I was looking at a painting, a depiction of the Last Supper. And what struck me was the gaze of the apostles, Jesus' followers, staring, fixed on what Jesus was doing and who Jesus was. I think this time in the world, especially in this time, this Holy Week and this Holy Night, is a great time for reflection, to fix our gaze on what is most important, what really matters. In some ways, in order to stop things. And this is a night of stillness that we see all around us in these days. Things slowing down, things closed, a time to stop, a time, if we are wise, a time to reflect. And I think there's three elements of this night, this Mass of the Lord's Supper. First, the washing of the feet, and the institution of the Eucharist, and also the agony in the garden. We remember and we reflect on all of these things. And what we see in all of these things is the idea of giving, the call to give to others, to offer ourselves to others, following the example and the sacrifice of Christ. First, the washing of the feet. Something that this night, this occasion, we will be omitted from the liturgy. Something that can be is an optional thing, but tonight the instruction is that this will be omitted. And what we do see in the washing of the feet, when it's represented, symbolised in the liturgy, is the action of Jesus. But I think we get it wrong if we simply see it as Jesus setting an example for us. He certainly does. He sets the example of what we are called to do. But what is very important in his action, in what he says to his disciples, is that he does that for us. First, he serves us. We receive something in his action, in what God gives to us. So we're not just seeing the example from afar and trying to replicate it. But if we truly understand Christ, if we truly understand this action, why he has done this, and all the events of these days, we recognise that we have received. And if we have recognised that we have received this love, if we have a God who serves us, then we enter into that. We don't just imitate it, but we give from what we have been given. We see this especially in the Eucharist. Tonight, you remember the institution of the Eucharist. The Eucharist, the source and summit of the Christian life. And that's why there's such a great sadness in this time. And so there should be. For so many faithful Catholics to be missing out on this extraordinary gift. And certainly in these days, in these past weeks, it certainly struck me the enormity of the gift that is. And seeing the sadness, the loss that many are feeling, and the extraordinary privilege that it is to receive. Hopefully in these days, all of us come to a greater understanding, a greater appreciation of the extraordinary gift that Jesus gives to us in the Eucharist. And what I think is important to stress is when many who are following online, we must recognise that we can't sufficiently present what the Mass is online, on screens. Even though we do our best to share the Mass, what is going on, the reality is it's not the same, not even close to the same. Because the Mass is about presence, is about a real presence. And Jesus truly gives himself to us on the altar to show us how much he loves us, how close he wants to be to us. So let us not be lulled into thinking that it's the same, or that we can follow in any similar way. And I don't say that to make people feel terrible, but I say in the spirit of this time of being able to reflect, to ponder, to contemplate the extraordinary events of these days, perhaps we can enter into that loss and really face it and really long for it. We long for the extraordinary gift that Jesus gives us. And may this longing for that which we can't receive at this time, may it strengthen our faith. May it increase our desire to receive. It is very important when things are not good, when there is loss, when there is difficulty, to acknowledge it, to be honest, and to let that longing grow. Because I think especially in this time when we are apart, when things are so different, we must take this opportunity to grow closer to the Lord. And when this time passes, and in this time, to to grow closer to each other, following the example and that which is given by Christ. Finally, the agony in the garden. I always find this night, the most sad of nights, because we sense that Jesus being alone, seemingly alone in the garden, ready to face the extraordinary suffering and entering into the suffering that he would endure. I always find it a desperately moving time, this event. There's always that desire to fully understand it, to grow deeper in our understanding of what Jesus goes through. And we never come close. But here in this time, in that current state of affairs that we're all in, we can, in a sense, maybe given the opportunity to contemplate that suffering, the agony of Christ, and unite ourselves in a very small way to him. In some ways, that longing, that loss, that lack that we feel, we can maybe get a hint of that, and in that we can despair, we can try and distract ourselves with other things, or we can enter into it, just as Jesus does. He doesn't shy away. He enters into that great suffering, knowing the reward that will be given. So may the event of this Holy Thursday and this time we are experiencing together now, and I say that we are experiencing this together, because even there is that isolation, there is that separation, there is something unifying about this, and we can't miss that opportunity. But may it draw us to a greater understanding of the extraordinary gift that God gives us in his dying, in his giving himself for us. And may we tonight, this evening, in this time, prepare as well as we can to commemorate the sacrifice of Jesus' gift on the cross on Good Friday.